Hard Eyes is a horror comedy directed by Josh Ruben with a screenplay by Phillip Murphy, Christopher Landon, and Michael Kennedy. Blending romance and slasher elements, the film follows Ally, Olivia Holt, a driven advertising executive, and her co-worker Jay, Mason Gooding, who find themselves in danger when a masked killer, known as the Hard Eyes Killer, begins targeting couples. Stuck working late on Valentine's Day, the two are mistaken for a couple and forced to fight for their lives. With a mix of horror, humor, and romance, Hard Eyes aims to offer a fresh spin on the slasher genre, just in time for Valentine's Day. Released on February 7th, 2025, the film runs 97 minutes and has received generally positive reviews, currently holding an 87% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Welcome to First Take, where we watch the latest releases and help you decide if they're worth your time. I'm Sean Weathers.
And I'm Angus Combe. Today we're diving into a new horror comedy. Always a tricky blend. Sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's a mess. Let's see which one we've got.
At its core, this movie is trying to appeal to both men and women, which makes sense for a Valentine's Day release. The romance plays out like a bit of a Hallmark fantasy for women. The male lead is tall, handsome, single, has a great job, Wait a minute, is this movie about me? Anyway, meanwhile, he completely accepts the heroine, flaws and all. That's the kind of wish fulfillment that makes sense if you're trying to appeal to women to get them to watch a horror movie on Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy V-Day!
Get killed, all right? What was...
Why would he say that?
It's exactly like a Hallmark or Lifetime Christmas movie. Hard-working professional woman meets super nice guy who might be in town to destroy her career, but wouldn't you know it, they're falling in love. The two main characters are likable, and we do get to know them in a way that makes us care about what happens to them, which is important because this Hallmark movie takes an abrupt left turn and becomes a holiday-themed nightmare.
The Hard Eyes Killer has stalked,
Hunted.
and brutally slain couples on Valentine's Day.
On the horror side, it sticks to the typical slasher formula. The side characters might as well be made of paper mache, while the main characters have plot armor until it's time for the final showdown. The final girl moment plays out exactly how you'd expect. It's got some fun set pieces, but nothing that reinvents the wheel. It also borrows heavily from Scream, not just in tone and structure, but even down to casting Mason Gooding. The killer's phone calls and the climax makes you want to Google the film and see if it's intended to be in the same cinematic universe as Scream.
There are a lot of questions raised over the course of the movie, such as why are Jay and Ally targeted so relentlessly by the Hard Eyes Killer? Is there some secret motivation lying underneath it that will explain it? And how does Jay become such a perfect suspect for the murders? Why does so much evidence seem to point at him? It feels like he's either got to be involved or he's being expertly framed by the killer. But why? These are questions that need to be answered in a satisfactory way by the end of the movie. But unfortunately, they're not.
Hey, come on.
Comedy-wise, it's a little too self-aware for my taste. I don't mind a movie that knows what it is, but if you're gonna go that route, the execution doesn't have to be on a Mel Brooks level, but it does have to be sharper than this. Here, it feels like it's trying too hard to be in on the joke, but it doesn't quite land.
This is more than just murder. He's like Cupid with a kink.
Unfortunately, Hard Eyes is no Scream, and the humor here is pretty broad and often resorts to slapstick, like when the two lovebirds first meet and keep accidentally bumping their heads together. That's not to say it isn't funny at times, but it's not a sharply written satire of slasher films or Hallmark movies. The writers also often seem to be laboring under the misconception that simply quoting the names of other movies in the dialogue is hilarious. It's not. I wish they would just allow the characters to speak to each other like human beings and find the humor in a more natural way.
We're being chased by a fucking serial killer!
It's a very safe movie. The language and sexual content are tame. The violence is graphic but stylized enough that it doesn't feel too real or uncomfortable. Even with an interracial couple at the center, It doesn't get into any social politics, which could have been a distraction in a film that's mostly aiming for fun. That makes it an easy movie to put on in a group setting without worrying about polarizing anyone.
In the end, the movie degenerates into action movie cliches. I have kidnapped your lover and I'm going to kill him unless you come to this deserted place alone. What kind of deal is that? Hard Eye's entire MO is to kill couples, so just boogie on down here so I can get at both of you? Who would agree to that? And really, what kind of behavior is this for a slasher? Imagine Michael Myers calling up Laurie at the house where she's babysitting, or Jason calling up the people at the other cabin, "Come on over here or I'm gonna hurt your friends." I don't think so.
You are a terrible friend. That being said, Angus, while I don't think it's a bad movie, like you evidently do, I do think it's the kind of movie that will age into a good bad movie out of nostalgia. It's not something that I'll be thinking about in a few days, but I could see myself throwing it into a Halloween or slasher movie marathon years down the line.
With no motive yet uncovered.
If you just want to enjoy watching some over-the-top gore and slapstick comedy, then Hard Eyes may do the trick. It's aiming to be a crowd pleaser, and I think for the most part it will be. But if you're looking for answers or a deeper understanding of things like, say, the killer's motive, then you might want to look somewhere else. I enjoyed Hard Eyes well enough for one viewing, but it will not become a yearly tradition for me like Halloween and My Bloody Valentine.
He's gonna keep killing people. We end it here.
All right, Angus, I see where you're coming from. If you're on a date, though, I think it's a good compromise movie. But otherwise, I'm kind of in line with you. I like it a little bit more, and I would say if it's on streaming for a service you're already paying for, it's worth a watch. But otherwise, I wouldn't go out of my way to see it. At one point, I'm like, all right, the best friend is the killer then.
Yeah.
But the best friend, that thing went nowhere. And you had that awful scene where like she runs to the airport to try and stop him. I'm like, what is this, 1983? Where it's like you're running to the airport. Like, don't get on that plane. I love you.
That's right. That's right.
I think there was a movie in the 90s, and we're in 2025, that made fun of that scene.
I was going to say before, too, in terms of the Scream thing, that's one reason when they started kind of pointing the finger at Jay, I was like, oh, this could be the kind of movie. Like, we know he clearly wasn't the killer because we saw the killer attacking him.
Well, that would fall into the Scream thing in that
exactly.
He had a partner.
Yeah, he could be working with him. And it just seems like, why is there so much stuff here? Like, he was in every city where these killings took place. Like, did the killers know that and were framing him? Or is it just a big coincidence, right? That's a pretty big coincidence for it to just happen.
I thought at one point it would be one of the cops and him as the killer. Either he's with the girl, because when he went into the car with her, he was like, she's not my type. I'm like, oh, is that going to play into the end? Like, like maybe something like that. Or maybe her male partner who we thought died is really alive.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought maybe something like that. And I also thought maybe the best friend. Like, why is the best friend there? Like, she doesn't really play a huge factor. And usually, like, even like with a movie like Get Out, the best friend came in at the end of the movie and still played a role in it. Like, there's usually like a throwaway scene with the best friend at the end to wrap things up. It's like, I really thought, like, once I saw the similarities to Scream, I was like you. I'm like, there's gonna be some kind of twist.
Yeah.
When I saw there were two killers, I knew for sure that one was that IT guy, because it was very obvious it was the IT guy.
Yeah.
But I was like, the other person now, who's the other person going to be? But even down to the end, where it's like 1 year later, I'm like, oh, like either they turned into killers throughout all this and they're killing people, or they're going to get killed at the end and look out for a new sequel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And of course, why the killers live in this city and have jobs in this city, why were they killing people in two other cities in the previous years? Like, why did they decide to then come to their own city? Like, if that's their MO, we travel to other cities, which is not a bad idea. If you're going to kill people, go to another city. but they decide to do their own city this year. Like, it's just weird. It doesn't really make sense.
That's a great point. She's a cop or a detective
Yeah,
or whatever.
exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
that's like a daily job. Like, how are you
Yeah.
finding the time to go to these other cities? And
Yeah.
he's an IT guy. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
They don't have jobs that would make them travel, and they're not
No.
jobless. So, like,
Yeah.
you're right. How are they going all these places?
Yeah. Yeah. It's odd.
Yeah, very, very.